Hey there, streakers. I am so excited to be here with Jami today, and we have quite the topic for you. We had a streaker write in and ask us a little bit about B statements, and we haven't talked about B statements for quite some time. In fact, a little shout out to Mike for reminding us why we do streaking at all. So let's go ahead and start streaking. So, Jami, this was an interesting email that I got from a good friend of ours. Shout out to Mike, who does listen on a regular basis. We appreciate your feedback. One of the things that he was asking about was about the B statement. And in the book, about halfway through, after we've described what streaking is and how you do it, we talk about the B statement. And the reason we talk about the B statement is because it's the whole reason why we streak anyway. In fact, we kind of have to go back to what it was that brought it about anyway.
Oh, the beginning of the story, like how we got the B statement?
Yeah, how we got the B
We're going way
statement.
back.
That's
back in the old days.
back in the old days. It really wasn't that long ago, actually.
Seems like it.
It was when we were getting ready to publish the book. Well, we were still in the manuscript phase of the book. Mm-hmm. And in the book, this story is related, but Randy, who was a friend from college, I met him at the airport, and he got a copy of the manuscript, and he wrote back and he says, "So are you just doing streaking for streaking's sake?"
I know.
And
I still remember.
At the time, I was a little miffed.
Yeah, I was like, I'm so offended. You don't see the value of this life-changing book.
You don't see the value of this life-changing methodology, really?
But he brought up the best question.
Which was?
Are you just streaking for streaking's sake? And that's why when you mentioned that we had gotten this email and that you were going to do a podcast on this today,
right.
I thought, I want to talk about this with you because I'm excited for this conversation.
When we talk about streaking, so the reason why I asked the question is because we did really start out by explaining how you set up successful winning streaks in your life. And because it being laughably small, keeping a record of something that you're doing laughably small every single day, and then creating a community around it, it seemed to him like, well, why do you do those activities? Right. Is it just so that you can show that you've done it? And one of the things that Mike says here, he said, and let's see here, where was it at? I wanted to get this exactly. Picking up trash and deleting photos are great things to be doing, but how do they really impact who I want to become?
I think you should just read this whole email for just a second.
Okay, so
or maybe I'll read it. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, you can read it.
Okay.
That'd be great.
He said, one thing I miss is the discussion of who you want to become. So in listening to the podcasts,
right.
It's like, I don't feel like you're having that discussion anymore.
Right.
He said, I know you had the one guest who talked about I am, and that seemed to change the approach. And I remember that. That was a while ago, but it was the difference between I want to be and I am.
Right.
So instead of saying I want to become a runner, I run every day, therefore I am a runner. But I think there is something to be said for stepping back and saying, who do I want to become? I really like that thought process in streaking. So I thought that was really good.
I thought that was good. Picking up a trash and deleting photos are great things to be doing, but how do they really impact who I want to become? Am I being intentional about who I am becoming rather than what I am doing? You got it.
So the reason I wanted to have this discussion with you, the
Please.
reason I wanted to be a part of this discussion.
She didn't want me to have it on my own because you know that there's several of these that I do on my own.
That's great.
Yep.
Is because, first of all, I totally agree with Mike that this is a discussion that we should have. And the reason I agree with it, that's what I was going to say. It's almost a discussion that I feel like happens within your streaking journey, that throughout your streaking journey, you do have to ask yourself, why am I doing this streak? What is it that I'm wanting to become? And is that happening?
Right.
Or the opposite, maybe kind of similar, but corollary to it is, what am I becoming because of this streak? And the reason I say that a little differently is because sometimes we set out a streak with the intention of doing it to become a certain thing, but in the process, we become more.
Right.
And I think it's good to ask yourself both questions. With this streak, what do I want to become? And because of this streak, what am I becoming? Mm-hmm. Because I think that through the course of streaking, through your journey of streaking, you really are becoming more. And I also think it's good to stop and ask yourself the question, because life is such that it can get so busy that you can literally be like, I'm just going through the motions.
Right. Yeah, totally.
And I think there's two parts to that. Sometimes you're just going through the motions, and sometimes that's life. Like the motions are important. You need to be going through them. And maybe all that needs to happen of I'm just going through the motions is to stop and look for a minute and be like, yeah, I'm going through the motions. And because of that, this is happening. But maybe I didn't notice it because I didn't stop to take the time to recognize that this is happening, that I'm becoming this kind of person. So I think stopping just in and of itself and looking at, is this streak helping me become the person I want to be, is important through your streaking journey, almost like often, like it's a part of the journey.
When we originally started our streak of run or walk at least 1 mile every day, we didn't start out with the intentional be statement. It was unconscious or unintentional in that we wanted to be healthy and fit.
Yep.
That's why we started running in the first place, is because we wanted to remain healthy and fit in some way. After a while, that's when we realized, and for me, it was important because when I was running before the streak, I always had it in my mind that I needed to get better or faster. Faster was better. I need to get faster. Either run longer distances faster or
just run longer distances, run it faster. It just always
whatever it was, always had to be improving, being better and better every time. And better was measured by a faster time and distance. When we set the streak, and I had been going at it for a while, and we happened on these B statements, that's where I really started to consider, why am I doing this? What is it about running that's important to me? And that's where we came up with, I want to be healthy and fit. In fact, that's one of my sentences in my B statement is, I want to be healthy and fit.
And I think the physical one fits in so well because we all know that you're not going to spend your whole life getting faster and better.
But you know what? There's a lot of times
in a physical capacity.
Right. And the other reason I bring this up, and you bring up a great point, is there comes a point where the body degrades. We were just talking about this.
You reach an age where you're like, no, it doesn't matter.
I'm not beating personal bests anymore.
Yeah.
But one of the things that this helped me with before I reached the age where I'm not hitting personal bests is I was trying to go for records, and I was injuring myself in trying to go for those records. And that would inevitably take a toll on my overall health and fitness because, for example, you remember when I was when I had that cast for a long time, and I finally just cut it off because I was so sick of it.
No. Can we stop and just take a second? When he says, I finally just cut it off, you had a cast on your, well, it was for your ankle, but it went halfway up your shin, almost to your knee.
Right.
And you got it because the doctor said this is going to help you with this heel pain that you're having, and you kept it on.
Well, it wasn't the heel pain. It was actually on the top of my foot. There was one of the bones had hairline fracture in it, or supposedly. We couldn't really tell, but it seemed like it did, and it hurt.
So you casted it, and you were supposed to go back to the doctor and after you kept the cast on for so long, and you got maybe halfway through the amount of time that the doctor said that had the cast on, and you're like, this is stupid. And I walk out one day, and you're literally on the back deck with a sawzall, sawing your own cast off.
And it worked. I got it off.
Yes, you did.
And I didn't hurt myself in the process.
Didn't. But I'll tell you, I sat there and was just like, all right, do your thing. You be you, Jeff. But I'm not taking you to the hospital if you cut an artery. You have to get a ride with someone else.
Because I'm not doing it. Well,
but anyway, the point was,
before the streak, I was injuring myself all the time because I was always going for these personal bests. And not always in the wisest, most astute way. I was always trying to get better, but maybe not doing the stretching or the weightlifting or the diet or whatever. When I started streaking, everything changed because I wanted to be healthy and fit. To be healthy and fit, I needed to be able to run every day because that was my chosen form of exercise. And in order to run every day, I needed to pace myself so that I didn't
I feel like
get injured and not be able to run the next day.
Yes, you needed to pay attention to your body in a different way. Where before, the only thing to focus on was, well, I want to do better. That's the priority. I got to run faster. I got to run farther. And so when that's the priority, you make decisions differently.
Right.
And then you got injured. When you switch that priority to, no, my priority is I want to run every day, you made decisions differently.
Right.
And I think that is a key component of when we ask the question, who do I want to be? That was a huge shift in the way that literally shifted the way that you made your decisions.
Right.
And I find that a lot in streaking, that when I add a streak to something I'm wanting to be or something I want to improve upon, which generally is related to something I want to be, it changes the way that I make my decisions.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. So for example, let's take my geography streak. Who did I want to be that I started that streak? I actually look at it and I'm like, I want to be a person who doesn't feel stupid when people start talking about places that I can't figure out or know where they are.
But I even think I would contend that you could just stop after I don't want to feel stupid. I think it wasn't that you didn't want to feel stupid. I think you wanted to be confident.
I did. I wanted to
feel
confident.
I want to be a person who is confident.
And for some reason, in my mind, knowing geography translated into I can confidently speak to people if I know where things are.
And I've seen that. I've seen that in you. I mean, because you've had that streak for how many years now?
I would have to look, and I didn't bring my phone in with me. But it's been
a couple of years, hasn't it? Maybe 3?
3 or 4 at least.
Really? And I would say in those 3 or 4 years, we've had different conversations at different times, dinner parties, different maybe at church or wherever, and someone has mentioned a place, and you were like, I know where that is. And you would talk in the conversation more confidently than you had previously. And I would also say that it's boosted your confidence in other areas as well, not just geography. So the geography streak was the catalyst for so many other things in your confidence.
Yes. And the other thing it's helped me do is manage my expectations. I've recognized, and this has been a journey. So in my head, first of all, before, when I would want to learn geography, I would look at something for a little while. Like I would look at the states or look at the countries, and I would berate myself that I didn't already know this. I'm like, I went through high school and college. How did I get through high school and college and not know these things?
Right.
And so I would take a good chunk of time and I'm going to learn it. And maybe I would get 1 or 2 things that I learned from that, but then something would happen, that an experience would happen that again had some kind of geography content to it and I didn't know. And so then I got down on myself again.
Yeah.
And so then I wouldn't go back to practicing it because I was frustrated that the effort that I thought I had put in wasn't paying off at the expected rate that I felt that it should. As I've been doing my geography streak, one of the things that's been really fascinating for me to learn, and I think this is true for a lot of people, but it may just be true for me, but I think it's true for a lot of people, that when you are reviewing something often, you remember it. If you stop reviewing it, you don't remember it as well. Even if you learned it years ago, a few things stick. Like I still remember the song that I learned in 5th grade most of the song that I learned. No, I'm not going to sing it.
What?
But it's the song that teaches
not
you.
Going to share it with us. Mm-hmm.
That teaches you all of the states in alphabetical order.
How does it go?
He's doing that because he knows I don't sing ever publicly, ever. And it's a source of contention.
You should feel her hands right now. They're very sweaty.
It's a source of contention because it was on his list for the person I want to marry, be able to sing.
Okay, for the record, it is not a source of contention. Yes, it was on my list, being truthful. But when I met Jami, that went right out the door because of how amazing she is. So just on the record.
So I'm not going to sing you the song. So there's parts of geography that I remember.
But honestly, you still remember it.
Not the whole song, but a good chunk of it.
Right.
But there was a whole bunch of things about that I'm sure I learned that obviously I didn't remember, that didn't stick. And it's also been interesting that as I've gone through geography, there have been times that I've practiced something for a long time, and then I move on and I practice something else. And then I come back to that thing and I make a mistake on one
Right.
of my geography things. And I'm like, darn it, I should know this by now. But what I've come to recognize is that it is in that repeated review that actually helps me keep knowing it.
Right.
Which
It's
is
the intentional, deliberate thing. And I would say that what that does for you is, back to the B statement, it boosts your confidence.
Because I am so much more familiar. So I'll give you an example. This morning, I'm reading an article that Chevron just purchased another oil company that has a huge oil refinery in Guyana. And I was like, I know where that country is. I know that country. I know where it is. I know it immediately. That's rewarding for me. That was really rewarding.
And boosts your confidence.
And it boosts my confidence. But I've also come to recognize that that is a process. Like, it's okay that I need to continue reviewing things in with geography.
Right.
It's also been interesting because it's gotten me excited to learn more things about geography. So, for example, when Chance was doing his report on Egypt and he was learning about the Nile River, I looked up the Nile River, and it mentioned that the Nile River travels through like 9 or 10 different countries. And so I thought, oh, what countries does the Nile River travel through? So it increases. So I guess what I'm saying is I started with, literally when I started this streak, and sometimes I just wanted to know the 50 states.
Well, and I think B, what is the specific streak? How do you state it exactly?
Do something with geography every day.
So it can be just look at a map.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that could be enough.
It can be, yeah. It can be
so you gave
practice
yourself,
a state
and
in
I
your
think
head.
this is part of the psychology of streaking that is important, is you gave yourself permission. You gave yourself actually permission to become the person you wanted to be. Mm-hmm. You put in motion the hard work of consistency. I think that there's some times where people equate the hard work to the activity itself.
That the activity has to be hard.
The activity has to be hard, or it doesn't count. When in
That's a really good way, because I think that's what I was saying with geography before, is I'm like, well, when I've studied it really hard for a long time, then I've worked at it. But I also expected that everything I did in that time should stick, should last, because
should be there, and no longer ever.
I worked really hard in that. I hit that expectation of hard work.
Right.
But the truth is that it didn't work.
Is the
that
hard
way for
work
me.
is the consistency. Mm-hmm. So, for example, one part, or I wanted to go to the B statement for just a second. So we started in physically a streak that required physical exercise of some sort. After a while, after a year actually, that's when I started to realize that streaking can apply to so many more areas of life. Which, one of the things that we intentionally did not read, but I want to read now, I intentionally didn't read it until now, which was this part of the email that Mike sent to us. He said that, so I want to become a disciple of Jesus Christ. So what streaks do I want to have to become a disciple? Mm-hmm. And this was the second part of my life that I started to look at with streaking, is who do I want to be religiously, spiritually? And what does that look like? And what are the activities necessary to become that person? And in any religious discipline, no matter what religious discipline you are, Christian, Hindu, Buddhism, Islam, there is repetition. Mm-hmm. And it is all about doing something every single day. So, for example, in Christian life, for me, reading the scriptures, at least one verse of it every single day, is critical for me to become or to be a disciple of Jesus Christ.
Right.
It's also true of other things that I do. And I talk about this a lot on my Sunday podcasts, because that's where I reserve and talk about spiritual streaks. However, it's not just Sunday that I do those streaks.
Right.
It's every single day, because I'm striving diligently to become the person I want to be in not only my physical life, but also my spiritual life, my professional life, my family life. All of those things require something. In fact, I was showing a streaker today. We have a new version of the app coming out. It's coming out on Friday, and I actually have it. Did you know that?
No.
Because I was testing it.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I was showing a streaker the new version of the app, and if you're looking online, there it is. Little side note. she said, "Oh, you have a folder for marriage." In other words, I want to be, and part of my B statement is I want to be a loyal and loving husband. And that's my marriage folder. And in our marriage folder, we actually have a streak that we keep together, which is and mine is to pray with Jami at least one time daily. And then to read at least one verse of scripture with Jami daily. Now, here's the interesting part, is our prayer streak, I think we're now on the third time starting it over. Mm-hmm. So we're at 50 days right now. I think it's been as high. I'm not sure how high it's been.
It's been high.
The longest has been 671 days.
Mm-hmm. That was, sorry.
And
I think we fell asleep.
Oh, like it was you. Yeah, it was your fault. My streak, your fault.
We learned from that, because I remember when that broke, it was because one of us fell asleep. And I think the reason I was saying sorry is because I think you fell asleep. And I didn't realize that we hadn't had that streak, so I fell asleep too. I didn't.
Well, then we hadn't completed it.
We hadn't completed it.
Right.
And so it was at that point that we thought, and maybe people would laugh at this, but we both don't have to be awake for that streak to count.
We don't even have to be in the same room. We don't even have to be in the same state.
Well, when we're not in the same state, we do it on the phone.
Well, or you leave me a voicemail.
That's true. You've left me a voicemail before.
I'm going to go ahead and read a scripture, because our two streaks together are to read a scripture and to at least one verse.
That lends itself to my point that you make decisions differently, that you look at it and so I look at that and say, okay, I may not be praying with you in person, but I took the time to call and leave you a message, and you've done the same. Or when I've fallen asleep or you've fallen asleep, I'll say a quiet prayer that's us together, even though one of us is totally asleep.
Exactly.
But it does create, and so I look at it and I'm like,
and just a quick little segue on that. Does that count? You know what I mean? I think people would ask.
So this is why I wanted
count?
to have the conversation with you, is because every little bit of that lends itself to who you're becoming. So does it count? Does my streak only count because you have to be awake? Or is my streak about the person that I want to be?
Yeah.
I don't always have control over how you're going to respond. It's a streak that we've chosen to do together, and that's good. But if it had to be dependent upon you, then I couldn't keep that streak unless you were willing to keep it at the same time. But why did I choose that? Because it's important to me to pray with you.
Yeah.
Even if maybe there's a time that's not possible to do in person.
Or you have to name the other times.
What are the other times?
When we're so angry with each other
that we don't even want to be
in the same room with each other.
And again, is that about you?
It's like I come over and I'm like, fine, let's have this prayer and be
done with it. We've had those kind of too. And again, so what is that? I think that's why when he said, you should talk about, B statements and who you're becoming. And I thought, I do not want to miss out on that conversation, because I think it is such an integral part of streaking. Remembering that it's like, this is about who I want to become. I'm doing this because it's important to me, because I'm becoming this kind of person. For example, I'll give you another one. I'm curious what your B statement is around, and maybe you don't have a statement around it, but who did you want to be that you pick up a piece of trash every day?
Okay. I knew this was coming, because every time we go on a walk now, Jami, whenever we're doing our walk streak, and
together,
we're either running together or walking together, Jami inevitably will be like, are you picking up another piece of trash?
I am. I feel bad. But I'm like, oh my gosh, he's going way over there to get that trash. And now we have to make sure we run past a trash can so we can throw it away. And the reason that it's fascinating to me is because it is a dramatic change from who you used to be.
Go ahead.
You did not used to care. Not that you were a litlitterer. You didn't litter.
I didn't throw things.
You didn't throw stuff out the trash. No.
Out the window.
But you did not notice trash all over the place. No. And now, literally, we can't go anywhere that we're walking that invariably you won't stop somewhere and pick something up and throw it in the trash. Wherever we are now. It's not just when we go on our walk. I've seen you do it several times in different. And I look at it and I'm like, okay. So a couple things about that. One, you are changing.
I've changed.
You've changed.
Completely.
Two, I've been annoyed with it, yet you've still been able to keep doing it. And I feel bad that I'm annoyed with it, because I think it's a good thing, and I'm sorry. And I'm just being transparent.
Yeah, I know. Why are you annoyed with it? I'm curious.
I think just because it's that, like, stop, start. And probably because it's a defect I need to work on
Oh,
myself.
she'll pick stuff up. She will. When she sees me picked up like the third piece of trash, and one will be right in the path, right in front of her.
If I have to like step over it, I'm like, okay, fine, I'm picking that one up.
Okay, there are limits, just so you know. Dog poop bags, I usually don't pick up. I have picked them up before.
Wow. See, that is a change, that you would pick up somebody else's dog poop bag. Like, that's a whole different Jeff than the guy I married.
Oh, it is. I agree.
So, but I look at it and I
here's
think,
what happened. So you asked me a question.
who is it that you want to become? What is that?
So one of the things that I noticed through time is when I've gone on hikes into mountains or along the beaches and so forth, they're so beautiful and so pristine. I wanted to be a person that helped contribute to keeping the earth a beautiful place. And not, the earth sounds really grand and grandiose. And more what I was looking at is I'm like, you know what? I just want to be part of the solution as far as picking up and throwing away a piece of trash. And I had seen people doing it online and everything. And the one thing that I never wanted to be is someone who nagged someone else to do this. Mm-hmm. I'm not that person. I more want to be the person that is contributing in an active way to taking care of the environment around me, because it's beautiful.
Which is a good point. You never have made me feel like I should pick up a piece of trash because you're doing it.
Right.
It's really something you are just doing on your own.
That's it.
And it hasn't been anything that you've expected of other people. And to me, that has been one of it's an interesting, because it's something that you have changed a lot in.
Yeah. And I think that that's part of becoming that person of who I want to be. Is I'm softer. I'm more aware of and deliberate of my circumstances.
Totally. That's what I was going to say.
You just had another thought.
Just being more aware. That single streak. And the reason I brought up that it's like wherever we go, it used to be that we would go someplace, and when we're in that place, you're not thinking about stuff that, how do I say this? When we're at home and you have the streak to go on a walk and you're in your same place, your pattern of walking, and you pick up a piece of trash because it's part of the pattern of what you do. Mm-hmm. But when we are outside of our pattern and in a whole nother state or totally outside of our regular environment, and you notice a piece of trash, that to me is huge, because you weren't specifically it's not like you were looking to do that. It literally has changed the way that you view the world, that even when we're outside of our regular circumstances, now you notice a piece of trash, and not only do you see it, but your behavior is like, oh, I'll just pick that up real quick. Like, it's turned into not really that big of a deal. It's like what you do now. That's a neat change.
Yeah.
And
thank you.
So that's what I loved about when he said, talk about who do you want to become? Are you just picking up trash to pick up trash? You could say, yes, I'm just picking up trash. But in the process, you are literally changing from the inside out.
Right.
Which is something that we all want to do, but actually can be really hard a lot of times.
Okay.
Or we feel like it can be hard.
You had one on me. I gotta give one back to you.
Okay.
Who are you becoming when you delete a photo every day? I mean, these are the two areas he kind of challenged as far as.
Yeah.
So you have that streak.
Yes.
To delete at least one photo every single day. Who are you becoming when you delete a photo every day?
That's a really good question. Because that is one that I started because of somebody else's. That's a streak that I adopted.
You adopted from someone else.
So I didn't set that myself. I saw somebody else who had it, and I thought, do you know what? I want to be a person who is paying attention and not just letting, how do I say this? The clutter of the photos was starting to get to me. And I wanted to be a person.
Now, one thing you should know about Jami is she is extremely organized. Organized at a very good level. I mean, like our home is organized. When things are in order, that's when she feels peace in at home.
Yes. But things like the photographs, when there's so many of them, it was overwhelming to me because I couldn't figure out how to organize them.
Yeah.
Like the actual process of organizing them was overwhelming. And so I thought, you know what? I'll just start with one. I either delete or edit a photo every day. And the benefits of that have been that I'm deleting a photo so I'm going through, and oftentimes I'm looking through photos, which has been really great. That I slow down. For me, it requires me to slow down. Some people maybe do that anyway, naturally, but I have to slow down and be like, oh, I'm going to look at the pictures, and it helps me.
And do you still have that? You still have that streak, right?
I do. Yeah, I do. And it's been great. So I work in our, I work at a place in our church, and it requires me to take a picture of people for something they're coming in to work for.
Uh-huh.
So I've loved that streak now, because otherwise I'd have all these pictures of random people that I don't actually know, but I just use for my phone to.
So you delete them.
So I delete them. And whenever I do it, I'm like, oh, good, streak done,
good.
streak done, streak done. And so.
I think the other thing that it's done for you that I've noticed is it's one thing that you have wanted and always wanted, it relates to your geography streak, is the confidence is in your memory, is remembering places, people, things that you've done, and deleting at least one photo every day. In order to delete, you have to review. And so you're reviewing and looking at all the different things that we've done in our life or that you've done and people that you've interacted with. And it brings back all of the great memories and the reason why you took the photo in the first place. So I think that it's a couple of B statements is you want to be organized. Mm-hmm. You want to remember. You want to remember and have those feelings of what it was like to be in that situation.
Because you bring up a good point. I actually changed that streak a little bit. It was delete or edit was the one I adopted. But I also allow myself that if I took a picture that day, it counts.
It counts. Which could be editing. I mean,
that's what I thought. I'm like, I took a picture. But for me, and this was another part of the conversation, that is something that I needed help doing. Letting go and saying, it's okay to stop for a minute and take a picture of this.
Right.
Because sometimes that, I don't like that. I just want to be where I am, and I don't want to have to stop and take a picture of it. And I wanted to improve that, because I go back at pictures and I love having the pictures after the event. And so I was trying to help myself be like, it's okay to stop in the event and take pictures. That's good. But that is very particular to me. I bet there's people out there listening that are thinking, you have to stop to take a picture. I do that without even thinking. Do you know what I mean? That they take pictures of the event and they don't even think about it. So that's where I love what streaking does, is that you look at who do I want to be and what do I need to do to help me become that person. Yeah. Not that I see other people and their challenges and their gifts aren't my challenges and gifts, but I can learn from them and have a methodology that can help me to become the person that I want to be.
Which is why, and I was thinking about, you said, I adopted that streak, which was to delete or edit one photo. And then you said a little bit later, and I count taking a picture. One of the things that we found, we've been working with a professor who actually has done research on streaks and streaking and why they're powerful and how you would use them in marketing. And we were talking with him, and he said, one of the things I found in research of streaks and streaking is that streaks are highly personal. Mm-hmm. They are, the person wants to define what they decide are the parameters. Yes. They define the parameters of the streak. What are the rules of the streak? And that's honestly what we have discovered as well. And that's one of the reasons why the streaking app is designed the way it is because it allows you to set the parameters of your streak. So you can adopt someone else's streak, but then you can change it. Mm-hmm. You can change the name of it and change it around in order for it to be specifically to what you exactly want. And the reason that's important is because it's who you want to become.
Yes.
And the activity that you want to do is going to be defined by you to become that person.
And I think that is the huge part of the power of streaking.
So as you streakers, take a time, an opportunity to really think about who it is you want to be and then align your streaks with it. Sometimes we call it a streaking audit, where you'll go through and audit your streaks, and are they in line with who you want to be? Are they progressing you to the person that you want to become? And if the answer is yes, then keep doing them. If the answer is no, then either retire them and start something new, or just retire them and don't do that anymore. As you do this, streakers, you will find a huge amount of power in continuing to become the person you want to be. Well, if you'd like to learn more about streaking, you can do that by reading the book right here over Jami's shoulder. And that is on Amazon. You could buy it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or anywhere books are sold. You can also download it via Audible. The Streaking app, like we mentioned, gets a huge upgrade coming up. I think it's this Friday, so that's going to be a lot of fun. The social media page gets a full facelift as well as the Streaks page. A lot of other changes are coming as well, which will be absolutely great. One other thing, just I was going to mention, if you are a subscriber to the Streaking app, one of the requests that we've had is the ability to open to the Streaks page. Well, if you subscribe, you're going to have that option to be able to open right to the Streaks page. So that's all up and coming. We're excited to have you. Until we talk again,
keep streaking.